So this is the sewer scope presentation at the Inspection Fuel Conference. Thank you folks for coming. A couple housekeeping notes. On the back right table are sign-in sheets for anyone whose state requires a certificate to be submitted to the state. There's several states listed back there. There's also one general sign-in sheet which is for InterNACHI, ASHI, or any other association that may be looking for a particular certification. The certificates are going to be available tomorrow, to my knowledge, after lunch at the registration desk for those people to pick up. Now that's for the general ones. I'm pretty sure the state ones will be there, but you can check with registration to make sure that's the particular case. I'm going to basically give you a little introduction. You guys who have been downstairs have seen me at my booth. Obviously, I'm in the camera business. But before we went into the camera business, as far as on this end of the, selling cameras and servicing cameras, I ran a home inspection company for 20 years. 13 of those years, we had a sewer inspection company and a septic inspection company. So we actually have hands-on knowledge, and that, I guess, qualifies me to be up here. From a personal point of view, I put that little Patriots logo up there for those people who want to have a discussion with me about football teams, and my team is no longer doing as well as it used to, so I'll take any kind of criticism you want to give me at this point. But why don't we get rocking and rolling here? I'm going to go back. You saw when you walked in this wonderful screen, and this is a business conference as well as a technical conference, so there's a little bit of business stuff at the beginning of this presentation. And I put this here for a reason, because we always get questions from people. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I can't sell it? What if a real estate agent doesn't like me because I'm offering a sewer scope? I guess I'm saying is don't let your fear hold you back. You guys are entrepreneurs, or you wouldn't be a home inspector. That's the bottom line. You're all businessmen, some way, shape, or form. And I want you to think about ancillary services as a business person, not as a technician. And there are things to overcome in every ancillary service, whether it's mold or looking at a roof with a drone, whether it's radon testing, water testing, or sewer scope work, septic work. You need to educate yourself and learn about this. But the fear of failure, the fear of what might happen, the fear of what somebody might say, the fear of I don't have the knowledge, don't let that hold you back. The knowledge is available. Once you get into this particular field, you'll get past all that fear. And anything you do as a home inspector, remember your first home inspection. I remember mine. I did a terrible job, 1999, okay? Everyone here started there, and now they're here. And that's what we're trying to get people to say. Yes, this is, you're not going to sit in my course for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and know everything about sewer scopes. There's a lot to learn. Don't be afraid. Keep pushing forward, just like you've done as business people, as entrepreneurs in the field you've chosen. Okay, what can you inspect? Let me stay ahead of this here. There's a lot of things you can look at with this camera. The main drain, any internal drain, gutters, perimeter drains, duct work, anything you can get a camera in, you can use it in those fields. Now this is sewer scopes, that's the primary function. But back to the business part of this, these types of cameras, there are a lot of other things you can do. Don't close your mind. If you can look inside of it, this camera will do the job. And it doesn't have to be our equipment, it could be anybody's equipment. Open your mind to the possibilities is where I want you people to be on this. Sewer line, sewer scope work versus septic work. Same camera, you're looking inside of pipes. With a sewer scope, which is the primary function of this camera, you're looking at the line under the street, in the backyard, from the house to whatever municipal sewer is there. But you can also use this for septic inspections as a tool to allow your septic inspection to be faster, easier, and to see more. The cameras can be, from the house, can locate the septic tank. You can run the camera down the pipe from the house to the inlet baffle. You can locate the tank location. You know where to open up the tank. You can find the outlet baffle, and from the outlet baffle, you can run the camera down the outlet line of the tank to the distribution box. And using a locator, where's the distribution box? You can open that. You can actually run a camera down all the lines into the septic system. So it's not just sewer scopes. For those people who think that in the future they may, in their states, allow to expand into septic work, it's an excellent tool. 10, 20 years ago, septic professionals were not using camera equipment. They'd use a metal bar, they'd probe in the yard, find the tank, dig a hole, find out the hole was in the wrong spot, dig another hole. The camera can avoid all of that stuff. So it's not just for sewer scope, that line from the house to the street, but it also can be a really good tool to be using in the septic world. Why sewer scoping? It's a revenue source. It's an ancillary service. It's quite lucrative. We have many customers, and our other camera competitors have many customers who it's a primary revenue source for their companies. And I want, back to this being a business conference, we're driving revenue here to help your businesses. Why should you do it? You're going to avoid lost inspections. How many times does the phone ring and you've got 2/3 of the way through the booking conference, and all of a sudden it's, do you do sewer scopes? No, I don't. They want to find someone that can do it all. It helps you avoid lost inspections. You can possibly avoid liability. You get the phone call. We all have received those phone calls. You didn't tell me. How come you didn't do this? The other guy said he would have done it. It's your fault. By offering a sewer scope, you've eliminated the liability of your client ever calling you up and saying, you never told me I should have one. And that's the same thought process you should use with the real estate agents who may be resistant or have objections to doing sewer scope work. Mr. or Mrs. Agent, I'm going to limit your liability by doing this. I'm not trying to ruin the sale. I'm not trying to put up an impediment to closing, but I'm eliminating some liability, and at the same time, you're helping your client. There's a cost to not providing that inspection. It's the lost inspection. It's all that liability. And whether it's this ancillary service or another ancillary service, you're going to drive revenue and you're going to minimize your risk and loss. This is a little chart. This is a brand new chart. It goes to the end of October. And this shows seasonally adjusted annual rate of home sales, and it's in dollars, okay? Notice the large peak right here. This is COVID, okay, when everything, we all know what happened, okay? This is the post-COVID bump, where all that pent-up frustration of COVID, and a lot of houses got sold, real estate companies and home inspection companies had a big bump in business. But look what's happened here since 22. You guys know this. You're living this right now. And that's why ancillary services are important. Sewer scope is a way to drive that revenue to overcome this before this chart starts to rise up again. And that chart is going to rise. As interest rates, people are going to get used to 6 and 7%. The number of houses that are on the market, that inventory is going to go up. Prices of homes are going to moderate. And the business of home inspection is going to increase. And if you have ancillary services already in your pocket when that business starts to rise up, it's just going to compound the amount of income that you're going to get. Sewer scope is just another ancillary service. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this slide. Those are all some of the ancillary services. If you're just doing home inspections, get out of that mindset. I work with a lot of people who say, well, I'm only going to be in the business another 5 years. I'm leaving next year. And they're reluctant to try anything new. You're entrepreneurs. Remember that. Just keep driving forward. Pricing. People ask me all the time, what should I charge for this service? And as you can see here, these are rough ideas. Countrywide there's people charging $150 to $350. The company that I started, that my son runs, he's at $375. That's in the Northeast. That's his starting rate for sewer scope or septic work. And he adds more money if he has to drive. He has a whole radius scheme put in there. Don't be afraid to charge. The recommended minimum, in my opinion, should be $200. I know guys charge $150, and they may be reacting to the market conditions in their area, and I understand that. But if it's the plumber who's using the $99 inspection to just drive revenue to his plumbing company, you have to counteract that. You have to say to your buyer client and to the real estate agent, that guy is going to see a problem, and all he's trying to do is get a problem so he can give a quote and I'll fix it. You guys as home inspectors are independent people. You're not making any money on a repair. You're not trying to sell anything other than information. That's your argument when you get an objection. Well, this guy only charges $99. If he's a plumbing company, he wants to put a liner in that. He wants to dig it up. He wants to repair it. He wants to hand over a quote for $5,000. That's why you guys should be charging more money. You're independent, okay? It's a loss leader. And I forgot to say this. There's this wonderful little square soccer ball for questions, okay? Anybody wants to ask a question, grab this thing, throw it around, you can't hurt it, and ask those questions. But you're right, it's a loss leader. That's your argument to the objection. Don't be afraid to use that. I think the sweet spot is $275 to $300, and we'll go into that later. As to, there are associated costs with doing this. It's not just I buy a camera, I do 10 inspections, I got my money back. There's an ongoing cost to running this part of your business. You should all be aware of that. We'll talk about that a little later. Everyone here, whether you're a single operator, work for another company, or a multi-inspector firm, you have a business model as to how you run your company. And doing sewer scope or septic work is the same thing. You have to figure out what your business model is. As a single inspector, it's pretty simple. You're doing the house, you're doing all your other ancillary services, you're doing the sewer scope or the septic work. If you're a multi-inspector firm, do you have a single guy who does all the sewer scopes and he moves around from property to property? Or does each inspector do his own sewer scope work? We ran it both ways. We had a dedicated sewer guy who went to different inspections depending on who and where they were. And then we transitioned to that inspector did his own work. So it's a business model. How do you want to run your company, okay? And this was up in New Hampshire, we were very successful selling sewer scope works to other home inspectors. And we had a neutral truck. We didn't bring our home check truck with all our lettering and numbers on it. We put neutral uniforms on. We had no labeling on that truck, and it would show up, and we'd be working for our competitor who brought us in because they're getting a percentage of that. There was obviously money, people made money doing that. It was lucrative for us in New Hampshire. If you're the first guy in your area, then you should be reaching out to other home inspectors and saying, hey, we can do the sewer scopes for you, and we'll be there. And that works really good if you have a dedicated sewer scope guy in your market. You can use that additional work to fill in that guy's schedule, okay? The other thing we did is our sewer scope guy was also a licensed home inspector. And when he was doing the sewer scope or the septic work, he would actually come in the building, find the lead inspector and say, what do you want me to do? And they'd say, okay, start in bathroom number 1 or do the attic or whatever it was. And that way, that sewer scope guy could get his work done, and then he's available for the rest of the inspection. These are all business model decisions as business people, entrepreneurs, you guys need to make. So, additional sewer scope services. You know, you get paid for what you do. So if you're going to do from the house to the street, that's a number. If you're going to take a locating device and you're going to mark the yard where the sewer line has collapsed, the tree roots, or wherever the problem was, that takes time. My opinion, you should charge for that. If you're going to mark, let's say we would get calls from homeowners and say, we don't know where our sewer line is. We don't know where our septic tank is. We'd go out and we'd mark using the locator. We'd mark where that line was. And we'd get paid for that. And that's something, if you're going to do that extra work, you should charge a little more. If you're going to do it as a normal part of your business, then don't charge the minimum for your sewer scope, because there's a time component there that needs to be taken into account. The other thing is, if you go to a house and it has, let's say there's 3 vent stacks and you're working from the roof down, and your normal scope, use that term, is to go through the main stack to the line leaving the house. But there are other vent stacks on that house. If you choose to do every vent stack, charge for that. Add that as part of your, hey, this is our normal service. Do you want us to look at other things in the house? You figure out as business people whether that's $25 a stack or $50 a stack, but don't give away your services. It's valuable, it costs you money to get there. Make sure you're charging for that stuff. Additional revenue sources as well. Commercial work. Once you get tied in with real estate agents, business real estate agents, and there are some groups that just do commercial. There's an association, I think, that's part of Internachi, where they have commercial real estate inspections. You can get into the subway. You can get into the McDonald's. You can get in apartment buildings. You can market these people, and you can do their work too. And so don't just think it's residential. The other thing that you can do is, and we have this up in New Hampshire now, we have drain cleaning equipment. We went from inspecting scopes, inspecting sewer systems, to putting in risers on septic tanks, to, for simple jobs, hey, we found roots, we found obstruction, we can clear that with a small rotor-rooter type machine. You can add that as an ancillary service. We have plumbers who we've converted to our equipment, who eventually, not because of our equipment, but who getting out of the plumbing world, they're sick of doing service work as far as repairing water heaters and changing faucets. They find it more lucrative to do drain cleaning, and they dedicate their business to that. So again, open your mind to all these other revenue sources and allow your business to grow in all these different areas. If somebody does a repair on a system that you've been to, and you found a crushed pipe, roots, and it's repaired, before you leave that job site, make sure you tell the buyer and the agent, if this is repaired, we'll come back and rescope this for a fee. Obviously, you don't do anything for free, but you're setting the stage for, we'll come back and confirm this work was done properly. Don't be afraid to do that. That's basic marketing. Pools, chimneys, ductwork, vents. Any camera can, with the right size camera head, right size cable, can look and do pool pipes. You can do chimney work with the right adapters or dedicated chimney camera. You can look in ductwork if you have the right cable. You can look in vents, dryer vents. There are people, home inspection companies, making money on cameras, not just our equipment, but other manufacturers, making added revenue with these kind of ancillary services. So just, again, open your mind that there's opportunities out there. You got to sell it. I talk to people who say, well, you know, nothing's happening. I've did one sewer scope this year. And when that phone call comes in, you're saying, do you need a water test? Don't say, do you need a sewer scope? Say, have you scheduled your sewer scope yet? Put it on the positive side. And they'll say, well, what's a sewer scope? Because don't give them the opportunity to say, no, have you scheduled? Don't get them, that puts their mind frame as, oh, this is something I should be doing. If you ask the question the right way, you're going to get a more positive response. Now whoever's answering the phone, whether it's you, your answering service, a third-party company, they're trained to ask the question just like that, and you're going to get more work by doing that. You have to sell it. It won't come to you unless you make the effort. Just like the water test, just like the mold test, just like the radon test, you have to ask for it. And I like to have you schedule your test yet. And then they think that that's something they should do, okay? All of this is overcoming those initial objections of, he's trying to run the bill up. Don't let them object. Make it sound like this is something they should do. Promotions, package it. Home inspection is $500. Sewer scope as part of the home inspection is $200. If you want me to do it as a standalone, it's $275. I'm already here. Make sure you ask, put those packages together. A lot of companies are very successful packaging, we're going to do a mold test if you do it as part of the home inspection. Here's the group rate. These are all little things you can do to raise your revenue. Understand that the service you provide costs you time, energy, for equipment, for training, for maintenance. You got to get paid for that. I'm a big proponent of making sure you get paid for what you're doing. Don't be afraid to ask for the revenue. That's why we're in business. When you're on a home inspection, the guy was a little behind on this. There we go. You're on the home inspection. You see when you get into that building, it's got cast iron pipes. You can see the corrosion on that pipe in the basement or the crawl space. You're not going to see it on the slab, obviously. You start to see that corrosion, that's the time the technician or whoever's on site says to these pipes are pretty, there's some corrosion here, this house is 75 years old. Have you considered a sewer scope? You may want to consider the sewer scope. If the camera is on your truck, in your vehicle, and they say, yes, set your price, go out to the truck, get it, and start using the equipment. If you don't have the equipment on the truck, you're losing that opportunity. But you have to, when you see a problem or you're running water and it's just not draining the way you want because you ran a lot of water, that's your opportunity to say, hey, I got a camera. We can look at it right now. Give them whatever discount you want, but take that revenue. You're already there. It already cost you money to get there. You might as well make that money. We were never a heavy sales pitch company. We never gave people the, you must do this, or you're going to spend $10,000. It wasn't our style. That's a business decision you guys get to make as to how you want to run your business. We soft sold it. We were very successful doing it. So we're going to show you a little video here. This is a customer of ours, and he put together this video and he used it for marketing. And he used to doctor up his videos. He put arrows and captions and things like that. So I'm just going to show you this so you can see what he was doing. Can you guys hear this? Okay. Why don't we pause that, please? Oh, I got it. Thanks. Technical error on my part.
Hey everyone, this is Scott with Apex South Inspections, and what I have here today is sewer scope inspection equipment that we offer for an ancillary service. Whenever you purchase a property, the last thing that a potential property buyer is going to think about is, what are the pipes? What are the conditions of the pipes? And that's honestly one of the last things that people think about. And with that being said, we bring that to the table. We help you find out more about your investment opportunities. So this equipment has a 200-foot cable, has a self-leveling camera head, and actually a LED light. So we can take pictures and do a video. And with that video, we'll send you a private YouTube link. And then once the report is submitted to you, then you can go to YouTube and then you'll be able to look at and review the video footage that we took. Not only does this include the video and photos, it includes audio as well. So while I'm doing the inspection on this pipe, I'll run the camera down, talk to you about what's going on, what type of pipe you have, what are the conditions that I'm looking at, things of that nature. If they're good, they're bad, and then I'll record all that while I'm going in and coming out, and then turn it around and go back towards the septic or sewer system, and then that's whenever we'll conclude the inspection. So you want to make sure that you're looking at your drain lines, because obviously that could be a costly repair. So obviously, I want you guys to inspect before you invest, and you guys go check it out on our website.
He got pretty good action on this video, okay? And he gave us permission to use it, obviously. He social media'd this, it's on his website. He uses this in training. It's a very good thing, and you guys can do this. He did make one mistake. He called that a 200-foot cable. It's 130, for those people who know. I picked that up right away, and but we're not going to make him redo his video because of that. We'll just go with it. But so let's talk about why I'm a big proponent of getting paid properly for this service. This service costs money. It's not just I spent $3,000 for a camera, I spent $12,000 for a camera. Whatever your cost of acquisition is, that's one cost. There's training costs, there's additional equipment, whether you have a locator, there's maintenance and repair over time. I don't want to say that every camera system is consumable, but every time you use the camera, you shorten its life just a little bit. And you have to build that into your business model. Mistakes happen. Equipment gets damaged, okay? Things get stuck, he said. And sometimes when it gets stuck, you get it back, and sometimes you don't get it back, okay? There's the cost of spare parts, maintenance, labor, okay? Those are all the things that have to be built into your business model when you decide what you're going to charge, okay? Now again, when you first start out, you're going to be on the negative side of that balance sheet. I spent X amount of money for a camera. I'm only doing 2 inspections this month. As you build your business, that curve changes, and then it becomes all positive net revenue. And you'll get to the point where you're so busy that you have to have, some companies have spare machine on the shelf. They have spare parts on the shelf. They know that if they can't afford downtime. So, hey, they got a spare camera head, a spare reel, and they just swap it out and they're ready to go in 30 minutes. So that's something you want to plan into your business model. When you first start out, do you need spare parts? No. But you get to the point where you cannot afford downtime because you're that busy, then you have to start building that into your business model. At that point, your probably revenue stream from this is good enough, so it's not going to be an issue. You're more worried about not getting the job done than whatever the cost of that spare part was. Same thing we were just talking about. Wear and tear, purchase stuff in advance when it's necessary, when it requires, and budgeting. I hear a lot of people say to me, it costs me X amount of money, and if I do 4 inspections, I got my money back. Wrong way to look at it as a businessman. It's a long-term investment, a long-term situation. Again, spare parts, we won't beat this up too much. Spare parts are a function of when you can't have downtime. So these are some other camera companies that operate in the home inspector sphere. There are certainly other ones. Woller's out on our show floor. You can look at that. Subtech is not here. There are some other camera companies here. Take a look around. Look at all the equipment. This is not a sales pitch for us. Obviously, we focus on our equipment because that's what our videos show. But there's other equipment. Take a look at the pluses and the minuses of everybody that's out there, and you'll find out what's going on in this industry. So let's talk about cables and push rods. Every cable is a compromise. And I have to say this over and over again to people. There are flexible cables, there are super stiff cables. A flexible cable won't push a long distance. A stiff cable will push a long distance, but it doesn't want to go around corners. It has too much spring tension, so it's much harder to push. So the cable you buy, the length you buy is a function of the property distribution in your area, the age of those houses, the types of materials that are in the ground. So when you're working with a camera company, have those conversations. A bigger, fatter cable is not always best, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go. Always remember that there's no such thing as one cable that will do every pipe diameter, every pipe length, every pipe material, every number of elbows. There's no such animal. And whether you buy a $12,000 rigid machine or some machine off of Amazon for $500, it's the same equation for every one of those pieces of equipment. Push rods, the only reason I got this up here is you'll see 4.8 millimeter cable, 5.2 millimeter, 6.8, 6.8. The two on the far right, which are these over here, 6.8 millimeter, 6.8 millimeter. This one's rated for 130 feet, this one's rated for 200 feet. The size of the cable is not the issue, it's how the cable is made. So always be aware that bigger is not always better. Those are the same size cables, yet this one's going to push a lot further because the amount of fiberglass in that cable is a lot more, and that makes it stiff, okay? So don't get hung up on diameter initially, okay? So the question is, what's the best cable, in my opinion, for your average home? Pretty wide open parameters there. We think a great middle ground is a cable that's 100 to 150 feet, okay? Mid-stiffness. Again, another company's mid-stiffness may not be the same as what we have. Be careful of buying the longest length you can find, because if you're in a house with multiple elbows and it's a 3-inch line, sometimes that's not going to push the way you want. So it's best to have a conversation with your camera supplier about your pipe diameter and what they think for their particular brand is the best situation. I'm always a mid-range guy because you can get on either side of the curve. I like to think that whatever you buy, if it can do over 80% of what you find out in the field, you're doing good. If it gets 90% of it done, you're doing really good. At that point, you can consider having other equipment that will pick off that last 10 or 20% if it becomes problematic. But always remember, every cable is a compromise. There's no such thing as one cable that will do every job. And keep that in mind. Again, more of the same. You don't have to look at more pictures of my equipment up here. Just to reiterate, all three of these cables are 6.8 millimeter, yet two of them are 130 feet, one of them is 200 feet. And it's all about how that cable is constructed. The purple one in the middle has what we call a 20% more stiffening in it. And some people, that's not even that extra stiffness is not good for them. So again, have those conversations with your supplier before you just pick a cable. Other brands, the same thing we're going to talk about here. You'll see rigid 100-foot cable, 8 millimeters. Waller's 100-foot cable is 6.6, and the Subtech cable is 140 feet, 9.9. You see three different diameters of cable depending on what manufacturer is. So let's talk about cleaning. You keep your machine clean and it's going to give you a better service life, okay? People ask me, how do I clean it? Because it's in a nasty spot. Let's understand where we're at, okay? And they're push cameras. They don't automatically clean. They don't have a little power motor that pushes them up and pulls them back. You're supplying the push. You're supplying the retract. As you're pulling that back in, you're using wet wipes, paper towels, and you're wiping off the bulk of that material. You're not going to get it all off. But over time, if you don't make any attempt to clean it, all that material is going to end up inside the camera. And if it's a closed camera case, which some suppliers have, all that material ends up in the case. Close the case, put it in the back of your truck. All that moisture, all that methane is going to eventually damage your equipment. So cleanliness is important, okay? If you don't keep it clean, you're going to open the back of your truck and it's going to let you know it's not clean. There's no reason to go down that road. We use bleach wipes, paper towels, and we always have a 5-gallon pail, which is where we keep the wet wipes and rags, and our rubber gloves and our dirty rags go in that bucket, and at the end of the day, that goes into a trash container. It's tied into the trash. We don't keep it in a truck. That's all good housekeeping. It's really important. If you allow the cable over time to build up with grease and sediment, it's just going to attract other grease and sediment, and it's going to just make it harder to do your work. So we get equipment back for repair and service, and some of it is really nasty. And I'm going to tell you, the plumbers are the worst. The home inspectors actually take better care of their equipment than a lot of the plumbers do. Always wear gloves. See the guy on the left? He sent me this picture. And the first thing I picked out was no gloves. And I know some septic guys who pump, who don't wear gloves, and they're just used to it. Sorry, I can't do it, okay? Get rubber gloves, double glove, wear good gloves. After the job, take them off, throw them away. But you really shouldn't be using this equipment, any kind of equipment, without gloves on. It's just not good practice. You'll see one customer figured out a way to stuff his handy wipes in that little spot, and you'll see that always a bucket for trash. This is all the extra debris that comes with the job. So, cost of doing business, I got to buy rubber gloves. I got to buy them every month, maybe every 2 weeks if you're that busy. So keep that in mind. Same thing, clean it after every use, wipe it down, get rid of the buildup of grease. So this picture here shows that picture there. That is a picture of a lens that's coated with grease or soap, okay? Now, if that was wiped off of there, you'd have a much better view. Now, maybe he picked that up when he went in. In some cases, you should probably just pull that out and clean the lens. But you can pre-treat the lens with Rain-X. It's not perfect, but it'll help some of that grease and oil shed off of that. You can use, a lot of plumbers swear by Dawn. It's the perfect chemical for everything they do. Just dump some Dawn in there, it'll work. All of that stuff helps shed grease and soaps off the camera head. Have it on the truck, and if you need it, just put it on there and go for it. These are some camera head examples. I put it up here because there's no one standard camera head. Wohler uses sort of a one piece that's a little stiff, and there is, depending on the diameter of that thing, that's an articulated head, so it's a little bigger diameter. It's not going to go in a 2-inch pipe. And again, depending on what you're looking at, different camera heads are not going to fit in certain pipes. Spring tension on different manufacturers is all different. Everybody's got their own little thought process. Look at cameras. See who's got soft springs, hard springs. Talk to the supplier about why one spring is better than another. Notice this, the 38 millimeter on the right-hand side. That's my camera head. I don't like that camera head. I don't like selling that camera head. It's 1.75 inches, okay? It's too big. And in my mind, the smallest camera head that you can get that will still do the job is the camera head you should have. Bigger is not better, because that camera head's not going to go in a 2-inch pipe. It's not going to go around a corner. You put a protective skid or guide on that, it's not going to go around a 3-inch pipe. Now you're in a compromise position where you got to use a camera head without its protective covering because you got to get through a pipe. You're just going to wear out that component. The smallest camera head that'll do the job is the one you want, okay? Bigger is not always better. Now that 38 millimeter camera head, in my opinion, works best 5 inches or above. But in a residential home inspector situation where we're 3, 4, 5-inch pipe, that big camera head, I don't like to sell it. I make more money on that camera head. I try to talk people out of selling, of purchasing that. Most camera heads you're going to find in the residential world they're going to have self-leveling, which is a simple mechanism. The lens is mounted on a roller bearing with a counterweight. And when you flip that camera head up, that little counterweight rotates down by gravity and makes the lens right side up. For residential work, in my opinion, it's the way to go. It's simpler, diameter is smaller, cost is less. If it ever goes wrong, like a pan and tilt, very expensive to repair, plus a long time to get it repaired. You can buy camera heads that don't have the self-leveling mechanism. Nothing wrong with them, but when you get in a pipe, the picture's going to be sideways, upside down. As a technician, you'll know what you're looking at because the water's always on the bottom. Your mind will adjust, but the buyer won't adjust. The agent won't adjust. So self-leveling is a better piece of equipment. You should consider that. It's usually not a significant upgrade in pricing. Location equipment. The red one on the left is inexpensive. I think that probably sells anywhere from $400 or $500. They work. More difficult to use. Think about how location works. The camera head has they call it a sonde, S-O-N-D-E. Just think about it as a radio transmitter. It's a radio. It broadcasts at 512 hertz constantly. Some machines, you turn them on separately. It's a little radio station it's broadcasting. The receiver, which is the locator, is the radio that you have in your car. It's receiving a signal. When you buy a high-fidelity stereo system, you buy it usually on wattage. How much power does it have? So the sonde that's built into the camera head has a wattage output. How strong is that? How many feet of earth will that pass so you can read it? If you get a low-cost locator, that radio, if it's not a good radio receiver, it won't pick up that wattage because it's not a good piece of equipment. It may not read depth the way you want. It may be harder to pick up that signal. They do work, but conditions, it's more fussy as far as conditions go. The one on the far right, the rigid Navitrack, it's probably $2,500. Good quality piece of equipment. The one in the middle, we happen to represent that company, good piece of equipment. Those pieces of equipment help the operator. It's going to cut your operation time way down. And if you can't afford a good locator, then save your money until you can. Spending money on a poor quality locator is counterproductive. We sell a locator which is half the price of this VVAX Metrotech, same company, half the price, much harder to use. I don't like to sell it. If somebody buys it, we call up and ask them why you want that. And if it's just price alone, we recommend they wait until they have more money and buy a better piece of equipment. Go ahead, sir.
Just a cheat on locators. Apple AirTags in a well-protected case attached to your head work phenomenally. They slide on great, and you can locate them from your phone down to the 10th of an inch. So they're incredibly accurate.
So,
Sometimes you lose them in deep slabs if you've got lots of exposed space because they don't have great penetration, but they're $20. If you lose one, they're $20.
so he's alternate technology. Apple AirTag, okay, he's trying to take business away from me. But I don't have a problem with that because it's a good idea. Basically his phone's going to read it, okay? This is thinking. Right. This is thinking as a businessman, and that's where I want you guys to be. Locating, okay, we don't have to beat this up. Basically, it's just a graphical representation. This is the locator. Simple display. These work with a little bar graph that dances and an audible signal. And it's like that old game you played as a kid. You know, you're warmer, you're warmer, you're warmer, keep going in there. And if you go in the wrong direction, somebody yells, you're colder, you're colder. That's how they work. You have to listen to a sound and watch a bar graph dance. They work. Takes more effort, more training to make them work. The better quality ones, basically, you turn them on, there's a little arrow that says, walk over there. Very quick, very fast, but you paid for that. Okay, there's no doubt about that. We talked a little bit about this. If you're doing septic work, you have to have a locator, or there's no sense doing the septic work with a camera. That camera's going to tell you where all the components are, how deep they are, how far you're going to dig. It's really important that you use a camera with a locator if you're working with septics. And again, I know we're Suoscope, but septic inspections are the next outgrowth from your Suoscope work. With a sonde locator, you can go out in the yard and you can put X marks the spot. This is where my defect is. In my opinion, if you're doing that, you should be charging for that. Or build it into the price of what your business model is. If you're going to mark the yard, you want to locate where the defects are, you can use a flag, you can use paint. I warn you though on the paint. It's not your yard, it's not your grass, okay? If you're going to mark it with paint for a homeowner, that's one thing. As a homeowner, as an inspector working for a buyer on somebody else's yard, you probably shouldn't use paint because you're going to get a phone call. Use marker flags. And when you're done marking and locating, take a picture. You guys are home inspectors, you have all kinds of cameras. Put that in your report so you located the defect, because who knows whether that marker you put is going to be there the next time somebody comes to look at that for a repair. Reporting and recording and report writing, this is up to you guys. There's lots of different softwares up there. We were kind of simple. We basically put the video and the pictures on our computer, did a little bit of minor editing on the video, and we put them up YouTube, and we supplied the YouTube link to our customers. It works, it's simple. YouTube will actually give you a notification if somebody opened up the video. Won't tell you who, but you kind of know somebody looked at it. They'll store it for you for free. You should save, just like you do all the pictures from your home inspections, you should save the video and the pictures, whether you're sending that to the cloud or putting it on a hard drive. That is your liability get out of school, get out of jail card. You got to have that when the phone call comes in. You didn't do this, you didn't see that. You need that proof. Save all that work. I know storage sometimes costs a little bit of money. That's part of your business model. You need to do that. Same thing. This is the same kind of thing. Camera head protection. I don't care whose camera you have. You got to have a skid on it to protect it. There are times when you can't use the skid, but understand that that camera head, every time it goes in that pipe, you're wearing off microscopic pieces of stainless steel or aluminum, whatever is in there. $5,000 camera head, $50 camera head, it's the same thing. Always wear the protection on that camera head unless you have no choice. And why would you have no choice? I got to get on a 2-inch vent stack on a roof. And if I put the skid on it, I can't make it around the corner. Okay, I know that I'm going to do this. I know that I'm wearing off just a little bit of metal. If I do it every job, every day, week after week, I'm eventually going to wear that camera head out. Every once in a while, it's just the cost of doing business. Use the skid unless you have no choice, okay? Clean out access. We all know that the general rules, I won't use the word code, you know, every 100 feet there should be a clean out. It's not realistic. Brand new construction, it might be there. 50-year-old house, it's not there. 20-year-old house, it might have been there, but it's been run over by the lawnmower, buried in mulch. You're not going to find it. If it's there, great. So, roof vent access. Florida, they go on the roof. They don't even bother looking for the clean out unless it's right there. Clean out in the basement or crawl space. Parts of the country, there's no such thing as basements. It's all slab work. In that case, it's rooftop or it's out in the yard somewhere. Outside clean out, great. If it's PVC, comes right off, everybody's happy. You're happy as a clam. Notice I show in green, it only goes to the city main. You can, as part of your business model, go the other way, back to the house. Make sure the buyer knows what they're buying. Hey, it's a sewer scope. I'm going from the foundation or the clean out to the street. If you want me to do under the house, extra money. If you want to do that as a normal part of business, make sure that's in your fee. It's a little more time. Not a lot of time, but make sure that your customer knows what the scope of your work is, just like in your regular home inspection business. Notice that I didn't show anywhere here where people were pulling a toilet, okay? Very few home inspectors pull toilets. Some do. Business decision, okay? We never pull toilets in my business, the business that my son runs now. I viewed it as too much risk. I think most home inspectors view it as risk. I understand we started with a slide that said fear up there. You pull a toilet and the flange is rotted, the floor is rotted, the tile cracks, guess what? You own it. The plumbers, maybe they're more hard-boiled. They just say it was rotted, I got to fix it, here's your quote. You guys don't have that option. Pull toilets at your own peril. There's no, it's not, in some states you can't, in some states you can, okay? If you're gonna pull a toilet, know what you're doing. Make sure you got flanges, wax rings, bolt kits. Make sure you practice somewhere else before you get to the house. I don't have toilets on there for a reason, okay? There's a risk involved. The comment was in, the comment was in Texas, home inspectors are not allowed to touch a toilet. You have to be a licensed plumber. Be aware of your local regulations, okay? This is this representation of cleanouts where the locations are. You know, nobody wants to go in a crawl space to do a regular home inspection. It's a pain. Going in there and taking a clean out off is not fun, okay? Basement, the far right picture, you got plenty of room to work. And the rooftop work here, again, Florida, that's very common. Right up, you're doing the roof anyway, drag the camera up there, right down the stack. Notice a little umbrella to keep the sun off. There are Amazon umbrellas like that. You can clip them onto your cameras. They cost 20 bucks, okay? If it's windy, they might get blown off, but keeps the sun off you. If it's raining, it helps protect you. We've brought them to shows before and given them away to people, but I haven't brought them to a show for a while, so you guys don't get one this time. Clean out locations, this is the same thing we just talked about, but we're going to talk about taking the covers off. And this is back to the fear, that big four-letter word I put at the very beginning, okay? What are you going to encounter for problems? The clean out stripped, it won't come off. The threads there's something wrong with the threads. PVC, it's going to come off pretty much, okay? Brass plug and cast iron, it's not going to come off, okay? We're going to talk about how you're going to get those off a little later. If you're afraid, you can't be afraid of taking off a cover, and we're going to talk about that, okay? So you're going to have damage. Let's say you get to the house and you see this. You're taking a picture before you even touch that, right? Proof that you didn't do it. The lawnmower did that, okay? If you need to incorporate that shot in the front of the house, okay, you need to do that because you know you're going to get blamed for that unless you document that. Make sure you document that. There's conscious damage, which means you damage the cap to get it out, which means you're going to take a Sawzall, a grinder, or you're going to chop it out of there with a hammer and a chisel. You made a conscious decision to take that out, and you're going to fix that when you're done. And there's the stuff you find that was already there. Just make sure you document it. Aid to better access. We're going to show you a couple things here that some people use in the industry. There's the Rain-X. The plumbers love Dawn. I already told you that. They start running water. They squirt, you know, half a ball of that stuff in the drain with cast iron, and they use that to sweep their camera and their cable down the line. We never use Dawn, but there's some plumbers who swear by it. String method. What is that? Camera goes in, and it won't turn a corner. And I don't have a picture of it, and that's my fault. You tie a piece of string, you tape it on that camera head, and just think about it. If you pull that string, the camera head's going to bend. And you hope it bends in the right direction. It goes around the corner. If it's bending in the wrong direction, pull the cable out, twist it a little bit, send it back in, pull it, and you're basically helping to steer the camera head around an edge of an elbow. It actually works. It sounds kind of hokey, but it actually works. Run water. If it's not flowing, if it's not pushing down cast iron, run water, okay? The pool noodle method, I'm going to have a little picture that I'm going to go to it right now, but see the left and that right-hand picture? See that cap with the notch cut in it and the bucket underneath? So the cap was taken off. That's not the customer's cap. That's our cap. We have a bunch of those, all notched. So you take the cap off, you put your camera cable in, and then you screw that cap in there with the V-slot so that if you told the agent nobody can flush toilets while we're doing this, but somebody did it anyway, okay? That's going to stop the mess. Maybe a little bit of drip will come out of there, but that's going to help you stop the flood on the floor. And you got plenty of room to get up there and look, and when you come back, you just unscrew it, put it back on your truck, okay? Real simple little thing. That's a close-up, okay? You can buy those at Lowe's, Home Depot, obviously. 3 different sizes. The one on the bottom is brass. We have a whole bunch of them. We know what we're going to find in our area. You learn what materials are in your neighborhood. Have this stuff on the truck ready to go. It might save you a problem, okay? See this little reducing bushing here? Take a look at that vent stack. Now, I think that's probably transite, cement asbestos, based on the way it's damaged. But if that was cast iron, and you were to run that cable down there, I don't care whether it's a $10,000 cable or a $500 cheap Amazon camera, that cable's going to get damaged as it rubs across those sharp edges. So you take that reducing bushing, so maybe you have to have 2 or 3, 4 of them on the truck. Slip it in there, put that cable in there, and now you got this smooth surface where you're going to avoid all that damage, okay? That's just something you should have on the truck. Here's the pool noodle, okay? This is one of my customers, and he sent me these pictures. He swears this works, okay? He takes a pool noodle, he cuts off a couple inches, he puts that around the camera head, and he uses a, what do you call those? I call it tie wraps, but you know what they are. And he puts that in the pipe and runs water, and he says it floats the cable down the pipe, okay? I've never done it. I put it here because this is one of my customers who absolutely swears by this method, okay? And it's self-cleaning, that's exactly right, okay? Yeah, he claims that he's in love with this, that's why I show it. Because he has an idea, so I'm not going to reject it. He's got a different idea. Maybe it works for him in his situation. And when he comes out, what he does, he takes his side cutters, snips the tie, he throws it away. He's not reusing it. He's got a whole pool noodle. He just cuts a new one for the next job. So here, I want to show you this. You see there's a little pit over there, right here, and you can see that the cast iron cleanout is in the wall. And you know, you're going to be stepping in this hole. There's pipes here, stuff in your way. So what you do is you can use a piece of polyethylene, polyethylene. This is weld pipe. And when you go to the next slide, we'll show you how you make this work. Whoop, let's go back. Right here. You can see that this is going to get this cable. This is probably going to have some rough cast iron, which will damage your cable. This little pipe is going to help protect your cable. But you see here, this was my guy, he took the skid off, he pushes the camera through the pipe, then he puts the skid back on. Then he walks into the house and he stuffs that end in the pipe. Because the skid on it won't fit through the pipe. So it took him an extra 5 minutes, but now he's able to access this thing from 3 feet away, guide that cable around that corner without damage. It's guiding it right in there, okay? So these are those little things that you come up with when you're in the field and you try to overcome problems, okay? Materials. PVC, cast iron with obviously some issues, clay, Orangeburg. Orangeburg is also called Bermico. Orangeburg is in New York, I believe. It's wood paper pulp mixed with resin and extruded into that shape. My understanding is that in the 40s, when it was World War II, metal and iron was in short supply. They needed alternative methods. We did not have PVC at that point. So these products, this paper pipe was developed, they say 50 years, I think that's not true, 35, 20. We still find it in the ground. And as we go on, we're going to see what happens to that over time. You see Bermico or Orangeburg pipe in the ground, you got to write it up. You got to tell people at the minimum it's a problem. And if there's any defects with it, you got to say it's got to go, because there's a lot of risk with that pipe. PVC, ABS, concrete, asbestos, cement. These are all materials. I'll show you make sure I'm in the right spot here. I'm not going to read them out to you. You can see when this stuff came into being. Life expectancy 100 years. Crushable, but doesn't really rot. Still in the ground, still doing its job. When it's assembled, there's some problems. Those rubber gaskets you see get displaced. Sometime when you're looking in the pipe, you'll see that black rubber gasket, and you say, what is that? When the guy put it together, the gasket displaced. Is it a problem? It's not right. Is it causing a problem? Probably not. Depends whether the pipe's separated. But if the gasket's a little displaced and you can see it, is it worth digging up? My opinion is no. Should note it, obviously. Service life, 50 to 75 years. Can last 100 years. I think that's a bit of a push. The inside of these pipes get heavily corroded, and all those rust nodules slow down flows of solids. They impede your camera flow. We're going to have some pictures that show some corrosion, some videos. When it starts to look like this, the Roto-Rooter people and the Jetta people can clean these out to some extent. That's not your job. The Roto-Rooter guy has got to know what, they call them chain knockers and stuff, how to set those up so he doesn't damage the pipe. The same thing with clay pipe or concrete. You go in there with the wrong cleaning device, you can end up ruining what's in there. Not your problem. Your responsibility needs to be evaluated, cleaned, cleared, replaced, repaired. I'm going to go to the next one here just to see. I don't think this is a video, okay? This is cast iron. You see some grease build up, and you see the roots there at the top? Starting to just come in through the top. They were very small. There's roots coming in at the seams. This is grease and sediment buildup. Now we started with cast iron, we're into clay. This is coming into the seam. You know, this pipe is a mess. Now watch what happens to the camera lens here. What I wanted to show you there, and it kind of went by quickly, was that camera head got covered with grease, and then he ended up into liquid. And he's using the liquid in the line by swishing the camera back and forth to wash off some of the stuff on the camera lens. And now this was a clear blockage. When you get to a blockage, so you saw them jump through some light roots, you're okay doing that. When it's 100% blocked, and you say, well, it's soft, maybe I can get through there. Do you want to risk your camera head, your cable? The answer is you found the problem. You're a home inspector. I opened up the electrical panel, the top right circuit breaker, the terminal was overheated, the insulation was melted. Are you going to take the wire off to see if the bus bar behind the circuit breaker is damaged? No, you're going to report that there's an overheating problem, I got damaged wires, I got heat damage. You did your job. Same thing here. You're not a hero. The plumber is not going to go through that. He's going to say, your line's blocked, and oh, by the way, here's your quote. I can clean that for you. Now, you guys don't do that part of the job unless you set up something else on the side. Don't be a hero. It is a precision instrument. It is not a Roto-Rooter. It's not a chain knocker. It's not a jetter. You push through that, and let's say there's a root ball on the other side of that thing that is so thick and gnarly, or that pipe is actually broken and your camera head falls into a hole and it's not coming back. Now you've got an excavation issue. Now you've got damaged equipment. Don't be a hero. Don't go past this spot, okay? Orangeburg, just showing you what it looks like. That came out of the ground, obviously. This is Orangeburg. You see the roots growing down from the top? Now, that's not a big root ball, but what does that tell you? It tells you that that paper pipe is so compromised that the roots are starting to grow through it. That pipe may be passing effluent, solids. It's really at the end of its life, okay? You don't want to be on the hook for that, okay? So this is a video. I'm going to start it, but notice this right here. See that bulge? Orangeburg Bermico absorbs moisture as the resins start to break down, and the pipe swells and bulges, and you'll see these lumps inside the pipe. That pipe's got to go. I mean, you got to report that as a defect, recommend replacement, however your language you want to put in your report. But that's going to cause a problem. If it's here, it's going to be elsewhere. Let's see if we get it. Yeah. Just watch this come through. You'll see more of those bulges. There was a little bit of root. There's another one. You notice the operator saw it. He pulled back. He got a good look at it. Now he's going to keep going. You know, for the most part, the pipe looks functional, serviceable. There's another one. So at some point, and if you can keep going, go. Here's root intrusion. I would probably push back past that. Yeah. Now see, this is one of my guys. I don't agree with what he was trying to do there. He got to something and he couldn't go. And he was like, I know I can. So when we see this, we say to the technician, don't do that. You did your job. You're just risking a lot of aggravation. So, okay. That's a piece of Bermico that was taken out. That's one of those bulge sections at its extreme. If you see that in a pipe, don't push your camera past that. You know, you're done, okay? But that's an extreme of what can happen to the inside of, or I keep saying Bermico because that's kind of what it's more known as and up in our area. I think the rest of the country knows it as Orangeburg. Clay pipe, pretty basic stuff. Brittle, lasts a long time, but it's brittle, moves around. Let's see what this one says. This is clay tile with blockages. He's got some goo on his camera lens, so it's a little blurry. You got root intrusion, obviously, spider webs. Again, I think he goes through this. I probably would have went through this slowly. That might be it. He might have stopped right there. Yeah, we cut this video down just to show the kind of stuff that can go on with the joints in clay pipe. You got to be reporting root intrusion. Now, does this pipe need to be replaced? Not necessarily. Should you tell your customer that this will need ongoing maintenance? That the risk of blockage and clogs is higher because of the root intrusion, and they may have to have that cleared once a year or whatever that time period is. But you got to say it. You got to let them know that. You can't just walk away from that disclosure. Lots of people will clean that for the next 10 years. Some people will line it. Some people will replace it. Again, on the rest of this line, I don't think there was enough damage to recommend a complete replacement. PVC, there's some thin wall stuff, there's some heavier wall stuff. We'll talk a little bit later about new construction. It's new construction, you don't have to do an inspection. I got two things to say about that. Do the inspection, and it's really easy money. The cleanout's not stuck, it's accessible. What are you going to find in there? Construction debris, crushed pipes because the moving truck went across the front lawn, or the excavator, when they were putting in the lawn, went over the top of the pipe. Not glued together, separated, sagged because the trench was not bedded properly. Don't let an agent, this is probably my first anti-agent comment of the day, who's laughing? Don't let an agent say, well, it's new construction. You don't need an inspection. Yes, you do. So let's say you want to do a discount because it's easy access, knock yourself out. Do the inspection. Because I'm going to show you some pictures of why it should have been done, okay? And it's so easy to get into this pipe. It's clean. It's a 10-minute job, and you're going to find those problems, and you are going to look like a hero. And you're going to make money, and the buyer's going to love you. And you're going to train that agent to stop saying, well, it's new construction. You don't need it. And the other one, which is even worse, well, it's PVC and it's not 20 years old yet. You don't have to do the inspection. The agent is not running your business. He's not responsible. He or she is not responsible for your liability and the loss of revenue. Inspect that pipe. Let's see what we got here. This is a long video. 2 minutes. This one we didn't cut this one down. Notice it starts out at cast. Notice it started with PVC, and then I'm into cast iron. So, oh, it's PVC, I don't have to inspect it. It's all brand new, it's been replaced. Well, all that was PVC was the beginning. The rest of it is this. See the corrosion? Now this is functional pipe. It's not blocked. You can see the soap and the grease build up on the bottom. Now the title, it says damaged waistline. So I know at some point we're going to get to something that's more interesting. What is that? Okay. Is that PVC? I think so. I'm going to tell you, I've looked at a lot of videos. There's sometimes neighbors coming in. Does this homeowner know that his neighbor's tying into his line? Okay. I don't know. Clay tile, PVC, cast iron, PVC, clay. One house. So that's telling you this thing has been dug up more than once and people have been working on this thing. It's never really had a comprehensive, full repair. That's it. Actually, it wasn't 2 minutes. It was a little less than that. But, oh, I beg your pardon. Here we go. And that's the city main, okay? You see it says 41 feet? In 41 feet, we had 4 different materials, PVC twice. And so don't get fooled with that initial PVC that the whole thing's been replaced. You have a question, sir? Yeah, I missed it on the video. The question was when it said offset on the caption, was that separation? Yes. Where the clay pipe, any pipe, has separated and it's offset this way or this way, okay? The pipe is separated. That's something that should be repaired because you don't know, because where's the liquid going? Where's that fluid going? Is it going to erode under the pipe over time? And now is that pipe going to start to settle down and cave into that trench that's being formed? So when you have something that's offset or separated, that's an automatic repair. There should be no gray area on that. Yes, sir. So the question is, he has a third party do his septic and his sewer scope work for him. And he's told, well, there are bellies. What's a good belly? What's an acceptable belly? How long does it get before you got to replace the belly? That all depends. If you have a little belly and it's holding a little water, let's say a short distance, and it's say a quarter of the pipe is full of fluid. I'm not going to be over concerned about that unless I see solids building up there. If it looks like it's flowing, I'm going to note it. I'm going to say, well, I got 2 foot, 3 foot belly holding a quarter inch of water, half inch of water, no evidence of buildup. That's in my report, okay? If I get there and I have disintegrated toilet paper, solids building up, now I'm starting to deal with a problem. If I'm half full, I got a problem. I'm not even, and think about what that is. That's a trap in the line. It's going to act as a trap. The solids are going to settle out in there. Toilet paper is going to settle. And that's going to become, over time, as it collects those solids, that's a spot that's going to get clogged up, that's going to cause a blockage. So, how long of a belly is acceptable? If it's 10 feet, I think we're getting to the point, well, maybe we want to deal with that. If it's 2 feet, it's a little spot, I'm not that worked up. If we got the whole pipe has no slope, and I got 30 feet of water, I got a problem. If my camera goes underwater, I got a problem. So it's a depend answer. You have to interpret what you're looking at. Thank you. ABS, different kind of plastic, more popular in some parts of the country. There's some thought that it's a little more brittle. We see it all up in the Northeast. I'm not a fan of ABS. I think it's just a bias for some reason that I have. Asbestos cement pipe, what's the, it escapes me right now, the transite pipe, you know. Again, 40s to 70s. It'll last forever. It's brittle, okay? It's very brittle. I'm going to show you the next slide. That's a piece of it right there. Notice, you see that outside texture where his thumb is? Sometimes on the transite pipe, when you're looking at that, you can see that texture inside too. It's kind of a clue that it's transite. Notice the color, that off-white gray. Sometimes when you're in a pipe, you don't know what it is. Is it concrete? Is it PVC that's dirty? Is it transite? It's not that easy sometimes. So you look for those little clues. If you see that texture, it's leaning towards transite. If you see, like we all know concrete, worn out concrete, you can start to see the aggregate start to show through. A brand new piece of concrete pipe is smooth and gray. As that starts to wear, the stones, the aggregate that's holding that together starts to show. That's another clue that it's not transite or PVC, that's concrete or cement pipe, okay? Again, reinforced RCP. You know, certain parts of the country, they have acronyms for this stuff. It's concrete, okay? Okay, this is another example of, you see the caps, 4 different sizes. Those are replacement caps for when we cut out the clean out that was there that I didn't want to open up because I was afraid of damaging it or I'd spend an hour trying to get the thing out of the pipe. We just cut it out. The plumbers don't try to use a pipe wrench. Some of them are still Neanderthals with a chisel and a hammer, and they beat it out, you know, back it out. We like the little mini grinder, battery operated, little wheel on that thing. That's a 3-inch wheel, I think. People use Sawzalls. People drill a hole and then use a Sawzall and cut an X. And they reach in there with a pair of channel locks and they just peel it out. If you have a cast iron clean out in a basement, crawl space, and it's got some corrosion on it, and you put a 3-foot pipe wrench on that and you wrench that down, that cast iron pipe might disintegrate before that plug comes out of there. Plumber's not putting his pipe wrench on that. He's cutting that cap off. And back to my very first slide, it said fear, okay? Cut the cap off. Make sure you're working for the homeowner. Not necessarily. Again, I'm going to disagree. His comment was, make sure you're working for the homeowner, not the buyer. There are people in this room who are already doing sewer work that cut them out. We cut them out. I don't care whose it is. We cut it out. The plumber's going to cut it out. And I have these on my truck, and I replace it. And when the agent says, what are you doing? Very commonly we say, well, the seller, the homeowner right now, his clean out doesn't work. When I'm done, he's going to have a functioning clean out. That usually wipes out the objection right on the spot. And guess what? We're not going to charge you for it. The plumber's going to charge him $150. Going to add it right on the top. My goal is to get in the pipe and look at it and get out of there as soon as I can. I don't want to damage what's there. If it's cast iron plug and a cast iron pipe, the threads are already destroyed. So you notice I don't have any expandable plugs here. We have them. There are some good quality ones, different sizes. Stuff it in there, turn that knob. It's not going to leak. Okay? I'm a proponent of cutting them out. If your business model says, I don't want to do that, I get it, I understand. You'd have to say to the client, I don't have access, we're not going to charge you for the sewer scope. That's a business model decision. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. We cut them out. And that prior picture, well, that one right there, I paid for that tool. Like, it's used now in a company, my son runs it now. I probably paid for that twice over, to be honest with you. This is not our stuff. This is, who is this? Precision Property Inspection. Basically, that's the kit that he has for a lot of stuff. Notice he's got a locator, a camera, some kind of recording device. I'm not sure what that is, to be honest with you. This looks like a mold device. Binoculars, there's an infrared camera. Part of being a home inspector is having a toolkit. When I started, the guy who trained me in 1999, who I bought his little small company off, I had a screwdriver and a flashlight, okay? Try getting away with that today. You need to invest in your equipment, and that's only half of what people have on some of their vehicles. I put that in there because I thought it was a cool example of what people can do. So here's and we're not a shill for any company. This is called the Odd Shop. All these little tools here, they fit various size clean-out caps. And if it fits on there, like it's PVC, I would use one of those. The Odd Shop, their fit and finish is not good. So you put it on that 1.25 inch square, and it might be a little loose. It'll work if it's going to open up easily. It'll strip if you try to go, if it's stuck. If it's stuck, that's what that's for. But you can use this. You notice they give you some breaker bars. We lean towards cutting rather than using the tools. But there's another company that supplies a kit like this. I think one company, it's all stainless steel. The fit and finish a little better. It's also a lot more money. But that stuff's all out there on the internet if you want to buy those kind of tools. There's a little close-up of caps. Okay, I love this picture, okay? Galvanized and cast iron with rust. Look at how close this is to the exterior finish of the home. It's already got a little hairline crack. It's already got some gaps here, a little rust underneath. How are you going to get a pipe wrench on that without damaging that surface of the house? You can't. So what are you going to do? Now that's going to be a tough one to drill out. But I'd be drilling that and cutting that with a Sawzall. And you'll see here, there's a Sawzall. And you'll see here, this is Matt Fletcher, but he drills a hole, puts the Sawzall in, and he cuts an X. And looks like a brass cap. And that just, once you get that hole, he can reach in there with his channel lock pliers. He peels them out one piece at a time. And then, and he's real careful with that Sawzall. As you get close to the threads, you don't cut into the threads, the female threads on that fitting. And look at all the pieces that he has collected. This is not one job. He just collects them to show people what he's got. There's his grinder. He uses a bigger grinder, and there's his Sawzall, and that's what it looks like. You really can't damage. You're not putting any physical force on the pipe fitting. You're just removing the cap. And you're going to screw a new cap in, or you're going to use an expandable plug. So you can tell I'm a proponent of destruction in this particular case. We talked about earlier, conscious destruction, that's what this is. That's a lot of salvage revenue. Every one of those was going to be a cancel. See, his comment was, that's a lot of revenue right there. Those were not canceled jobs, okay? Plus, you might get a junkyard to give you, $1 a pound for that stuff, or maybe that's why he collects them for all I know. But those are completed jobs he get paid for. He didn't have to walk away from. And that's why we're here with business people. Defect recognition, we're going to go into some of this stuff. These are some basic pictures. This is an interesting one here. This is a clay pipe. You know what that is? That's a utility line, cable line. They put new cable in your neighborhood. They have that underground machine. They're supposed to mark where the utilities are. Well, the cable company comes through, and 2 weeks later, the guy's toilet won't flush. Guy runs a camera down, and what does he find? Cable company hit it. Get the documentation, submit it to the cable company. They'll come and fix all that. It's their fault. There's some other pictures. I'll show you a gas line that went through one of these pipes. Same stuff. I mean, you're going to see collapsed. Now we have a video of this one, which is kind of cool. I'll show it to you later. Corroded cast iron, old Orangeburg, root intrusion, all the stuff that we've seen. These are the defects you're going to find. cracks, pipes, shifting, grease, blockages, pipe, rust nodules. You're going to see it all. And you're not going to be able to recognize and identify what it is on every case, no matter how experienced you are. You're going to look at something and you're going to go, what am I looking at? Okay? Be prepared for that. This is a blockage, and this was labeled by the person who did this unknown. There was a bunch of guesses on this stuff. People thought it was sabotage. Some people thought it was like a plug that was put in there intentionally. It looks like foam to me. I believe this was newer construction. The people who commented on this photo professionally could never figure out what that was. And that's why I put that up there. You're not always going to know. And remember, you're the home inspector, sewer guy. You don't need to always know. Line blocked, unknown substance, recommend correction, repair, replacement, whatever your language is going to be. You're not always going to know what you're looking at, folks. Okay? Okay, so this is a toilet. Again, I've already told you we don't pull toilets. This was, what is that, Dora the Explorer for those who have kids, okay? Yeah. This toilet wouldn't flush, and they kept doing all kinds of stuff, and finally they yanked the toilet, and little Miss Dora was in there, and I put it up there for the laugh it got. These are the kind of things that you know, sometimes you're not going to find the problem, because if you don't pull a toilet, you're not going to see that. And it's not your responsibility. You know, the scope of your work, I'm doing a sewer line, I'm not pulling a toilet. Whatever your contract is, and you should have a contract for this work that outlines the scope of what you will do and what you're not going to do. There's Miss Dora, say goodbye. So this is an island tub test plug, okay? And this is a plug you put in a line to test the drain or something. And that thing got dropped down into the line, and it took a bunch of people to confirm what that was, and they all eventually agreed. It's an island tub test plug. I have not looked up what that is to see that piece. I probably should. But you're going to see unusual stuff that you're not going to know what it is. And again, just report that it's in there and it's blocking. There's another picture which is kind of comical, which I'll show you a little later. So here's an offset right here. See that material? Is that concrete? Is it transite? Is it dirty PVC? I'm guessing it's going to be transite, but I don't really know. I can't really tell. And again, the thing is, I didn't see this picture from all the way in. Sometimes as you're seeing it, I don't know how old the house was, all those clues you get from the inside there. But that's separated and displaced. You're going to write that up all the time. Okay. That's grease, okay? There's also something going on in this photo that's important. Where's the bottom of the pipe? Okay? Follow that radius around. What's missing? Okay? It's channeling. It's gone. Missing. I think that's grease. The experts who were commenting on this photo could never really agree. People said it was soap. People said it was this. I think it's grease. What's important here, we don't want to lose track of and get focused on all this and miss this. Where's the bottom of the pipe? That pipe's got to go. You know, it's not tell the jetter to come clean it. That pipe's gone. Do you run your camera through there? And here's why. You know that Chinese game, you know, you put that little, and you put your fingers in it and then it won't come out? If the camera head gets there and falls into that slot and you pull it back and it happens to get stuck in that little groove, that camera's not coming home. It's staying there. Don't be a hero. That pipe is severely compromised. Yeah, it needs to be cleaned, but who cares? The pipe needs to be replaced. So focus on what's really wrong there, not that coating that's inside that pipe. Okay, that's a gas line. What's that arrow pointing at, folks? Tracer line for a synthetic gas line, okay? That's the trace. So this is a gas line that got run through a pipe, okay? Now, you know, it doesn't, do we really need to know what that is? We'd call it a utility line. But the tracer line that's on that gas line tells us what it is. That's the trace that's required to be there so they can locate that pipe by putting that, you know, current on it and say, and line that out, the utility guys, okay? So that's just an interesting photo to show you the kind of stuff that can happen out there. Again, another some kind of utility line. When it goes through clay, look what happens to the clay pipe. It just disintegrates it. So this probably wouldn't have clogged up right away because where's all the liquid going? It's going out, okay? It's going to erode. Eventually there's going to be a problem. Now, I don't know the history of whether this particular person was called in because the customer or the homeowner was having a problem, or whether the customer, this was a buyer inspection, and nobody knew that was there, and that utility line got put in, you know, 4 years ago. Who knows? It's been discovered. You're a hero. The buyer's really happy because that's not an easy fix. Now, because it's a utility line that got thrown in there, it's technically not, it's their responsibility. But if that's an old break and that utility company's not even running that line anymore, who knows? Who gets to pay for that? But that's obviously a problem. What am I looking at? I can see the water on the bottom, right? A bad picture. It's not my picture, obviously. But I think that this is the aggregate that's starting to show through on concrete. Not a great picture, I admit that. And we can see some mortar in the joints here. I think that's some kind of concrete pipe, and this is worn, and I'm looking at the aggregate. Again, I wasn't on this job site. I'm reporting that based on a very short view. And there are going to be cases where you're not always going to know what you're looking at. So what am I looking at here? It's grease, soap, something's in that pipe. Can anybody identify the material, what that pipe's made out of? I can't. Look at the next slide. Clay, okay? So eventually it became clear what we were looking at. But in this particular case, before we got there, you couldn't tell. So that line should be cleaned. Again, not your responsibility. You can report that we're flowing, no evidence of blockage, but the pipe should be cleaned. Let the cleaner clean that properly. If he uses the wrong chain knocker, causes damage, that's on him, not on you guys. But you can, if you keep looking, you will see, in some cases, what you're looking at. I left this photo when I almost took it out. It's a hairline crack. I actually don't even know what material that is. I think it's clay. Anybody care to guess? Ishvan, you're looking at pipe all the time. I think it's clay with a hairline crack. Is it displaced? No. Is it separated? No. Will it be a problem someday? Yeah, could be. You got to report it. You saw it. It's on a video. You got that evidence. You're going to report that. His comment was it's self-sealed with a lot of, stuff. That's all true. If enough fluid leaks through there and it eventually erodes underneath and that pipe settles out, then it becomes a big problem. Whether you call that monitor over time or get another professional to make an opinion, you bring another professional in who's in the business of lining or replacing pipe, you know what's going to happen. Here's your quote, okay? But you got to protect yourself out in the field. Okay. This is new construction. Okay? New construction, brand new construction. I think this is a rag, but I'm not sure. This is rock, stone, concrete. Did this pipe separate somewhere? Did the kid on the job site who's making $10 an hour on Friday afternoon want to get a beer and he's just sweeping the debris on the basement floor into the drain? This is why when the agent says it's new construction, you don't need an inspection. That's wrong. You need an inspection. This was easy money. You can see this thing looks to me like it's holding water. This is SDR. 35 PVC pipe, okay? But that's all the debris in the line. Sometimes that's sabotage, okay? There are cases where contractor did the job, never get paid. You say, okay, I'll fill the pipe with concrete. I'll make a problem. It happens out there in the real world. I beg your pardon? Foreclosures, okay? All the light fixtures disappear. The owner who lost his home is very mad, upset that his home was taken away from him. People work on emotion. It happens. And this, again, stuff happens. This is just the inside of a ductile iron pipe, and all I wanted to show you was the coating. Somebody was concerned about, this. It's just the extra tar that's in there, anti-corrosion. Maybe it was sitting in the sun and it melted and it dripped down. I called it iron, ductile iron, cast iron, some kind of metal pipe. Exactly what it is, I don't know. You can see it's metal, and it's got this coating on it, anti-corrosion coating. Could it be a problem? I guess it could be. The comments that were made on this particular piece of pipe was, they shouldn't have used it because that rough surface might start to collect stuff over time. This is just a shot of an offset, which is fairly obvious that that's a big offset. Obviously, when you see that, you're not going to put your camera in there. You're done. You report it, photograph it, video it. Now, one of the things we didn't touch on, there's two schools of thought out here on your camera usage. A lot of people push in all the way and video on the way out, okay? And they already know where the defects are. We did it backwards. Maybe we're the only people who used to do it that way. We always videoed going in, and I took my pictures going in. I didn't video coming back. There's people who do train say, go all the way in and video coming back. We did it the opposite way, never had a problem. It's really up to you guys. If you go to additional training and they tell you to video on the way back, then do that. I mean, it doesn't bother me. The comment was, at any time, your field of vision could be blocked. Things could happen as you're going through. His point of view is, if you're going, you're taking pictures and video as you go, because things might change as you're going through. If you go all the way through and coming back, you might lose something that you saw. I kind of agree with this point of view. There's another school of thought that goes the other way. I'd leave it up to you guys. I like the video going in, okay? This is, again, reported as new construction. This is low-tech photographic evidence, okay? He's using his camera to take a picture of the screen of whatever oscilloscope he had. This is new construction. I think it's PVC because this looks purple to me. Maybe wrong. This is definitely some kind of concrete, and this is definitely some kind of workman's rag that was thrown in there. Don't let the agent say it's brand new, it doesn't need an inspection. Don't let the agent say it's less than 20 years old, it doesn't need an inspection. Don't do it. Take your money, easy money. The buyers are going to love you when you find these problems. Just a close-up. Okay. If you look at this, you see this surface here? It's kind of worn, but I don't see aggregate in it, okay? And this looks like a rubber gasket here. And you see this little bit of texture up here? I think it's transite, asbestos concrete. And Ishvan is agreeing with me, okay? Smooth wall, 1968 construction on this house, that much we knew, no aggregates showing. So I'm looking at this saying it's transite. We are starting to see some compromise here, see? Now what I don't know, well, the grease is here. I don't know whether this was a self-leveling camera head, okay? I don't know whether this is the bottom of the pipe, which it very well might be. See how this is kind of a channel here? And that's another reason to have a self-leveling camera head, because you'll know where the bottom is. There's no water flow, And some of these earlier generation cameras didn't have self-leveling, so this might be the water flow channel, and that may be why this is all worn out here. And this may be just a high spot where grease built up. But anyway, it's starting to be compromised. Is it still functional? Yes. I'd have to see the rest of this pipe before I'd make a final call on what should be happening here, but I'd certainly note some type of defect, compromise, deterioration in this particular area. If there was no evidence of blockage buildup, everything was flowing, I'd note that too. No visible evidence of blockages or restriction of flow, surface deterioration noted. I'd have to have something in there to comment on what that was. This is just to show you what roots can do. And they don't have to be big roots, but you're seeing a root here. I'm not sure what all this other stuff is. I only grabbed this picture because right here there's got to be a little spot where some roots came in. Eventually that'll be bigger. Root compromise. Does that have to be, just because of that minor root intrusion, line to replace? Not necessarily. You got to report though that that is probably going to need to be monitored or cleaned on a regular basis before it gets out of line. If the lot's covered with trees, you're going to report on stuff like that as well. Okay, what is that, folks? That's correct. It's a toilet paper holder, okay? And, you know, somebody was changing a roll of toilet paper and oops, in the toilet it went, and then somebody hit the flush. And there it is right there. And this, look at this pipe. This is some kind of cast iron. It's already got a lot of corrosion. Somebody asked me, how do I get that out of there? Well, you might be able to get it with a snake, you know, with a little wire thing on the end. You can get in there and pull it out. It should not stay. I don't know whether, again, this was what they found because a homeowner kept having a constant problem with backups. But be prepared for unusual stuff in your pipes. Okay. Avoid trouble. When to say no. Saying no is a good thing. Don't be a hero. You have to say no, okay? See a defect, report on a defect. You're not a drain cleaner, you're not the repair company. Your camera is not a rotor-rooter or a jetter, it's a precision instrument. You get to a problem, stop, okay? Your wallet will like you in the long run, okay? It really will. Plumbers always say no. Plumber might have a $15,000 rigid or general camera. The camera head alone is $2,500. The cable is $2,000 to replace. They're not going to risk, plus the cost of repair, they're not going to risk a $5,000 repair because they want to be to their equipment, a loss, because they want to be a hero. They get to a problem, they stop. Video, photograph, here's your quote. You're doing everything but here's your quote, okay? Stop, say no. There's that famous word I like to use, fear. What happens if my camera head gets stuck? What happens if I break my cable? You avoid that by saying no. You avoid that by not taking risks. You avoid that by recognizing what's in front of you and not going too fast, okay? Go slow. Use your eyes, use your brain, okay? That's how you stop it. If you get your camera head stuck and you have another camera, plumbers might have another camera, you can always run another camera down there and use the second camera to push the first camera up a little bit and pull them both back. Sometimes you get a snake in there to do that. Some people use PEX pipe and they'll split the PEX pipe and they'll slide it over the camera cable and push the PEX pipe all the way down in, you know, using the guide, using the cable as a guide. And when they get to the camera, where the camera is, they push the PEX forward like this, and it lifts up the camera head. The plumber's not going to abandon a $2,500 camera head. They'll do everything they can to get that thing back. Second camera, PEX pipe. Look up on the internet, camera retrieval using PEX pipe. There's probably 10 videos there that'll show you people doing that kind of stuff. Okay, I put these two pictures in because you're going to see this. These are backwater valves Do not ever go through a backwater valve. And when I said go slow, you get up to that and you go and you just, everything's cool. You just ram it down that line and all of a sudden it's, oh my God, I just went through a flapper valve, which snapped back on your cable, and now, and that camera head's not coming back. Second camera, snake, PEX. You have to push something down in there to lift that flapper, try to pull it back. Fill a tub. Drop the tub, flush all the toilets. Somebody's downstairs, and as soon as the flapper goes up like this, pull, and you get it back. When it happens, you're not going to be happy. You can retrieve it. The key is don't go through that thing. If you know it's there, don't go through it, okay? And just be careful when you're going down these lines. There's a couple different, some of them you'll notice, this one flaps from the top, this one flaps from the bottom. Okay, this is a really, I love this video. This Septic Check Inspections is the company I used to own. My son owns it now. But I want to show you a video here. This is what my technician at the time saw on the job site. And I think the next picture, okay, this is the video. Watch this video. PVC, cast iron. Okay, he gets here and he's looking. He's like, uh-oh. And he's looking. He's thinking, what am I going to do here? He's looking. He pulls back. He's going to get a running start. Here he goes. He's smart. He's not as dumb as I thought he was going to be. Okay, now just watch. Oh, no. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay, so one of my guys did this. So I had a conversation. I didn't review every video that came, but I reviewed enough of them. We had a little sit down about this, no, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And the running start he took just blew me away. He tried to be a hero. Don't be a hero, okay? And no, he got it back, okay? We got it back, and he gave me the old, well, what, nothing happened. Okay, don't do that again. So, and this section started out, the title of this whole section was, fear and what happens if I get stuck and when to say no. Say no, okay? And remember, the plumber's equipment, camera head and cable is $4,500. He's not going to do this. He wants to give you a quote. He's done. You should have the same mindset, okay? Well, I'm not sure what we're going to find here, folks. I think, yeah, see, this is PVC. Notice this is not 4-inch pipe. And this is just showing you a lot of corrosion in this pipe. You can see the rust in the bottom in the water. This pipe may be able to be salvaged in the sense that if the guy with the right adjusted chain knockers could clear that cast iron out of there. But there's certainly compromise in there. I didn't see any root growth in it, but that pipe's in really rough shape. And a lot of guys may say, I'm not even going to clean that because that wall may be so thin wall at this point that pipe just disintegrates as soon as he hits it. High pressure jetter could go right through that if he's got his pressure too high. Chain knockers, I know guys do it. I've seen pipes clean like this and they got away with it. Not your call. That pipe needs to be evaluated for repair or replacement. And let the next guy up the ladder hold that responsibility, okay? I don't know whether that was in a wall or accessible. Because of the diameter of it, it suggests to me that it's in the building as opposed to underground, but I don't know that for sure. Root growth, obviously we have a compromise. How did that root get in there? It's coming through something, okay? And I believe this is going to run. I know you can do it. Come on. It's making a liar out of me. There we go. Okay. Blisters and roots in Bermico. Notice he went through fluid at the beginning. So obviously there's some kind of problem there. Some buildup on the bottom of the pipe. Roots. This is probably the Bermico here. Right there, see it, the blister? So, see the camera head? When I first saw this picture, I thought the camera head flipped around 180 and it was facing me. Actually, it's a reflection. There's a little bit of standing water there. So the camera head is, reflecting back on me. We got some liquid, don't we? That camera's flooded. Obviously, there's a problem here. That's a belly, to your question, okay? Camera's underwater. If it's underwater, it's a trap. You can see the solid suspended starting to build up in there. This all looks good here. Now, in this case, your camera system should have a yardage meter, a foot meter. So when you got to that, you'd look at the screen or you'd take a snapshot and you see that crush right there. That's what I wanted you to see. How'd that happen? The moving truck, the guy liked to drive his pickup trucks across the front lawn and the pipe was only 12 inches deep. Whatever it was, it's a top crush. Could have happened during backfill. Now, is it going to leak because it's the top of the pipe? No. But it's damaged there. We saw a belly in the line. We saw some holding water in another location. That line's probably replaceable at this point, okay? The fact that we saw cast iron, I think Orangeburg, and then PVC sort of suggests to me we've had a repair on this line. Again, I don't know the age of the house, how far that line is, but this needs to be repaired. Another variation of cast iron. Underwater, solids, standing water. This is pretty easy at this point. Solids. This is going to be a waste line that's going to clog up. Got to tell your customer this needs to be repaired. We don't need to look at all the solids that are in there. Nice clean PVC. Now we're in the clay. Root growth at the joints. Again, does it need to be replaced? Not necessarily. Okay, a little bit of an offset there. And I think this is probably down into the main at this point. So the reason these videos are here so you can get a real view of what you're going to see out in the field. And it's not always crystal clear what you're looking at. And the more of these you see, the better you're going to get at interpreting. But you can get away with not knowing everything you're looking at, as long as you're reporting that it's got a problem. Report what you know, always report the problems. See, a lot of this line doesn't really have a problem. But we did see some areas where there was a problem, and that should be noted in your report. So I'm going to skip it forward. There's no sense staying. This says sags and waistline. Okay, So this guy in the back here, a success story, he's right there. He's smiling at me. That's his quote. $40,000 in revenue over the first eight months. He went aggressive, okay? Now some guys, it takes them a while to get going. I talked to somebody yesterday that, actually this morning, who's had, he just got a camera not that long ago, and he said, I asked him, well, how many did you do last month? He told me 30. He's turned it into a big part of his revenue generation, and that's why we started here today. This is a business opportunity. If you can get past that fear part and use this as a business opportunity. Another guy, this guy, Heinemann, 12 to 15 scopes weekly. These are guys, I know Chris, he's developed his business. He made it a point to sell it. Made it a point, hey, have you scheduled your sewer inspection yet? He sold it that way, and now he's become the guy in his market. He's getting business that he might have missed from other people because he was willing to ask for the business. That's all I got, folks. We got 5 minutes to go. I'm going to hang around for questions if anybody has them. And if not, I know you guys got some kind of golf event coming up in 15 minutes, so don't miss the bus. Thank you very much for coming over. I appreciate it.